In these sections, we have worked on the topic of the couples you choose, which has allowed you to obtain a series of new knowledge and, above all, skills, which is what we are going to be exploring here. First of all, you have become aware that, contrary to what you previously believed, it is not you who has chosen the partners with whom you have interacted throughout your life, but rather a series of forces, both internal of your psyche and your mind, as well as external from your society and your culture, who choose for you, and that in a way they are shaping your destiny and limiting your decisions making capacity. Secondly, you have managed to recognize these forces that led you to choose a partner. The first of them were the unconscious couples, which activate a series of complexes in you, such as those of undervaluation and guilt, among others, that are associated with the unconscious relationship that you have established with your parents in your childhood. The second force you learn to recognize and control is the expectations that others have of you, which leads you to choose a partner based on satisfying what others consider to be good for you, instead of looking for your own convenience. And the third force that you learn to recognize and control here is the one that is activated by your past traumas, which leads you to try to resolve in your present partner or in your future partners some conflict that you have had in a previous relationship. Everything we have done here was intended to ensure that you yourself could recognize the origin of these forces that acted in you without any control, even before you began to become aware of their existence. When the guilt arose in you, that leads you to be with someone because you don't want others to suffer, because in turn, you have suffered at some point in your life. What persons lead you to feel some kind of shame in relation to your own decisions that you end up believing that the perception of others is more important than your own? And what was the most traumatic relationship you had in your life that led you to feel such a degree of undervaluation and guilt that, without being aware of it, you always end up trying to show that partner that they are no longer by your side, that you are not the kind of person that she or he said you were? On that basis, the idea is always that you manage to recognize the moments in your present in which all these forces are activated. You may know someone who you see as a substitute for your lost mother or father. If you realize that what makes you want to be with that person the most is the unconscious desire to receive that affect that you did not have in your childhood, you can now observe how this force is generating an influence in you that leads you to lower your emotional guard. In the second case, you may be going through a phase in your life in which you do not want to be a problem for your family or friends, because you do not want to be alone. What is a clear demonstration that it is activated by the force of the expectation that others have of you is some type of abandonment complex. I am going to work on all these complexes in the psychoanalysis program, where we are going to resolve all the unconscious conflicts that might be overwhelming you. And in the case of past traumas, you may be dating someone not because you necessarily like them, but because you really want to get even for something that partner who hurt you so much has done to you. Many people enter relationships when they find out that their previous partner lives happily in the relationship. It is a drive of the psyche that they cannot avoid. Precisely for this reason, it is so important that you learn to recognize when you are transferring to your desire to be happy in the present that force from the past that leads you to think to get even with a person who is no longer important to you. Once you have done this entire self-awareness process, you have reached a new level in your personal growth process. Firstly, and thanks to the fact that you have overcome the partners of the unconscious, you have managed to mature by stopping looking for your potential partner or the one you have in your present to resolve the family shortcomings that you had in your childhood. If you look, this is precisely what will allow you to truly become a woman or a man who can genuinely take responsibility for others, because they do not need anyone to take responsibility for them. Another skill that you have developed, and thanks to the fact that you have exceeded the expectations that others have of you, is that you have managed to recognize and accept your own taste. You would be surprised by the number of people who spend years denying the type of people they like or want to be with, due to some type of insecurity regarding their own decisions. So, if you pay attention, by developing your own taste and criteria, you are allowing yourself to accept what you really want. A great step for you to find your own freedom and fulfill your own desires. And finally, thanks to the fact that you have overcome the traumas of the past in relation to choosing a partner, you have managed to dissociate yourself from your previous relationship. That it has stopped living in your psyche as a kind of emotional ghost that is always tormenting you. Which is a great achievement if you think that thanks to this, you have taken one more step so that you can stop living in your past and start living in your present. So, if you pay attention, you are ensuring that you can genuinely begin to build a splendid future where all your desires are possible. Once you have overcome this stage, in the following sections, we are going to work on the issue of the partners you want, which also determines whether or not you have the ability to really find the true love of your life and, above all, the person you love the most. I see you there.